Today on the Travel Magazine, we'll visit one of the most attractive sailing regatta areas in Europe, the charming fishing village of Warnemunde. With its miles and miles of white sandy beaches, you can see why this is the town that invented the beach chair. We'll take a steam train ride to the small enchanting city of Rostock and visit a 13th century cross-shaped basilica. We'll even witness the daily march of the disciples. The fishing village of Warnemunde was purchased in 1323 by the merchants of Rostock in order to give this Hanseatic city access to the Baltic Sea. Today, Warnemunde is a famous seaside resort, while Rostock has been able to maintain its Hanseatic charm. The juxtaposition of both old and new make this a unique destination. Hi, I'm Jake de Boer.
And I'm Mieke de Boer. Welcome to Warnemunde and Rostock in Germany on this edition of Travel Magazine 2000.
The popular recreation area of Warnemunde lies directly north of Rostock, where the Warnau River flows into the Baltic Sea. Warnemunde has been a seaside resort for the past 160 years and looks back on 800 years of history. The glass boxes or verandas attached to the front of the houses distinguish its architecture. Residents and tourists enjoy walking along the pier and soaking up the atmosphere. The former cottages facing the pier now house souvenir shops, boutiques, restaurants and cafes.
Christina, this is such a wonderful, cozy little port.
Yeah, this is Warnemunde. Warnemunde actually means mouth of the river Warne, and we see the river right here. And the whole thing started as a tiny little fisherman's village in 1195, so way back in history. And if you look at it now, it still looks like an old fisherman's village. Fishermen come in here in the morning with fresh fish, then they clean the fish and start selling it right away. So you can come here basically the whole day and get fresh fish from the boats. You can have meals here, and we also have wonderful restaurants along this river promenade. Until about 1800, it only consisted of about 2 rows of houses. Only about 750 people lived here. Now it's up to 10,000 people, because around 1800, people discovered how nice it can be to come to the Baltic Sea, have a swim in the water. And this is when the whole town started exploding and getting bigger and bigger. But it still, as I said, has its special atmosphere. You can still feel it used to be a fisherman's village, and it still is.
And the local people also come here in the morning. You know, when the fisherman comes in, the locals come and get their fish.
Locals come here, tourists come here, also people from Rostock come here.
Warnemunde's unique charm is provided by its sailing boats, pleasure ships, and the fishermen selling their catch of the day.
We have a lighthouse, and it's more than 100 years old. You have a perfect view from there. It's about 30 meters tall, and it sends signals out which can be seen for about 30 kilometers. So it's a very important tourist attraction and also very important for shipping.
The 115-foot lighthouse is the town's most important landmark. But the beach is everyone's favorite attraction.
The beach, you know, that is also one of the attractions.
Yeah, it's actually, I would say, the #1 attraction of Warnemunde. If you look at it, it's an extremely wide beach. It's wonderful, fine sand. And another attraction or specialty of our beaches is the beach chairs. You may have seen them. The first one actually was invented in the 1880s by a person from Warnemunde. who knew that it gets quite windy sometimes, and in order to enjoy the sun and avoid the wind, he came up with this idea of building a wicker beach chair that you can turn around depending on where the wind is coming from, and then enjoy your day at the beach. And another nice thing about our beach is the forest in the background there. You can actually go for a walk in the forest if you want to avoid the soft sand. Go for a walk in the forest or for a run and have the fresh air from the sea. So it's marvelous.
From how far do the tourists come to Warnemunde?
Oh, well, they come from all over the world. In East German times, Warnemunde used to be called the bathtub of the Berliners. People from East Berlin used to come here in the summer. Nowadays, it's people from everywhere. It's people, especially also West Germans that come here that want to see parts that they haven't seen before, especially beaches that are so natural and unspoiled, you know, it's just pure nature. And also lots of Scandinavians. We have excellent ferry connections to Denmark, Sweden and Finland. So lots of Scandinavians come here. And then of course with the cruise ships we have lots of Americans, Canadians and British people coming here.
I understand, Mika, that there's a beautiful old steam train that takes you, it's not from Warnemunde to Rostock, but it's a bit closer to Rostock. And I think we should take that. What is it called again?
It's called Molly, and it's a very much of an attraction in this region here. So we should definitely go and see Molly.
So let's go.
All right.
When we return, we'll journey to the Hanseatic town of Rostock. Nice, eh?
Yeah.
Here it comes, and listen to how quiet it is. We'll visit the structural wonder of St. Mary's Church and marvel at the world's oldest astronomical clock.
We will be back with more of Travel Magazine 2000 just after this, so stay with us.
Welcome back to Travel Magazine 2000. The Hanseatic port of Rostock is in northeast Germany. It is not only an ancient seaport, but also a thriving university town. Rostock's town hall began construction in the 13th century. This Gothic brick building was originally 3 townhouses. It grew in size as the town grew. The decorative Gothic facade emphasizes the importance of the building. Centuries later, the town added a Baroque annex to the front. This is very unique for the Baltic region. In 1419, Rostock University was founded. It attracted about 200 students initially. Today, there are over 9,000 students. The main building of the university was built in Italian Renaissance style. There are 8 different faculties at the university. Each faculty is represented by a Renaissance-style figure. Law, philosophy, medicine and science, and theology are the 4 oldest. The university grounds help shape the city of Rostock. The most important sacred structure in Rostock is St. Mary's Church. It is a monumental example of North German Gothic buildings.
So this is the famous St. Mary's Church in Rostock.
That's right. We used to have 7 churches here. Number 7 is very important for Rostock. I'll tell you about that later. But this is really the most beautiful and the most famous church, St. Mary's.
So when was it constructed?
Well, the history dates back to the 13th century, and it's really a miracle that it has survived. Even some of the old stained glass windows are still here, and it survived 2 world wars without any damage.
Why is it called St. Mary's?
Well, that's an interesting question too. All Hanseatic towns have a St. Mary's church because in the old days, Mary was supposed to be the patron saint of all the sailors. And so they dedicated the biggest and most beautiful church to Mary. It's actually still called St. Mary's Church, although since the Reformation happened here in 1531, it's a Protestant church now.
St. Mary's Church is also home to a valuable art collection.
If we have a look at this painting, which dates back to 1945, we can see how heavily damaged Rostock was after the Second World War. And it's really one of the greatest miracles that St. Mary's Church, the biggest and most beautiful building, has survived without any damage. Even some of the old stained glass windows are still there. Some, of course, have been melted because of the enormous heat all around, but some are still here, and even some of the interior is still there, and we'll see the greatest treasure in a moment.
The exquisite beauty within St. Mary's Church fills one with awe.
Christina, what is now the greatest jewel of all?
I think we're standing right in front of it. It's our astronomical clock in St. Mary's Church. It is the oldest still functioning astronomical clock in the world. It was built in 1472, 20 years before Christopher Columbus discovered America, and it has never stopped working. The custodian has to come here every day, pull up the weights to keep it going, and he did it even during the Second World War when Rostock was so heavily bombed. And they even built a concrete wall in front and behind, so in case if something happens to the church, they can preserve this wonderful astronomical clock. And if you look up there, you see a big dial showing 24 numbers. On the very top, you see number 12 for noontime. On the very bottom, you have number 12 for midnight. And the hand shows you exactly where we are in the course of the day. And the second circle shows you all the zodiacal signs. And the sun shows you where we are in the zodiacal signs, where we are within the year. And if you look in the middle, you see the portion of the moon. It's almost full moon, and if you look at the sky tonight, you will see exactly that portion on the sky tonight. And another very interesting thing about this astronomical clock is our procession of the apostles. Every day at noontime, there's a procession here. You see Jesus in the middle and 2 doors open, and out of the right-hand door we see the disciples coming. They turn towards Jesus. This is all technology dating back to 1472. They turn towards Jesus and then pass him and enter the door of heaven on the left-hand side. Now, everything works well until the last one comes. It's Judas. He doesn't turn around. He doesn't look at Jesus because he betrayed him, but he still tries to sneak into heaven. And then shortly before he enters, the doors close with a bang, and he has to stand outside. He's not allowed to go into heaven. So that is the procession, the famous procession of the apostles every day at noontime. And then we have the lower part. It's a calendar which was added in 1643. And this is also amazing. The most important person of our calendar is our calendar man in the corner here. He has a pointer, and he shows us exactly what day it is today. And in the very middle, we have 2 hands. One is pointing to number 13, and this shows you how many hours of daylight we will have. And the other is pointing to number 11, and this shows you how many hours of darkness. So it's really incredible, and we are very, very happy that this treasure has survived.
You know, Christina, as Mieke knows, when I was a young man in Holland, I used to play the organ, especially in a small monastery church next to where we lived. And it was built in about the 12th century. Tell me about this mighty organ.
Yes, we have this wonderful Baroque organ which dates back to 1770. It has 5,702 organ pipes. The smallest one is only about 10 centimeters tall, and the biggest is about 10 meters. And it has 83 registers and 4 manuals, and it's a wonderful sound.
Having taken decades to build, this Gothic basilica is an architectural masterpiece. When we return, we'll board the narrow gauge steam train, Molly.
Willkommen beim Travel Magazine.
Welcome back to Travel Magazine 2000 and Rostock, Germany. Rostock is a remarkable blend of historical and modern times. The many cafes and restaurants allow you to experience the town and its colorful residents. Yes, it's true, Germans love their beer. The oldest evidence of beer brewed in Germany dates back to 800 BC. Today, Germany's 1,280 breweries create more than 5,000 different brands of beer. According to a recent survey, 79% of German adults drink beer regularly. Beer drinking has always been about fun, fellowship, relaxation, and unique taste experiences. This could also describe the charming Hanseatic town of Rostock. There are many ways of getting around Rostock. Bicycles are an easy form of transportation. Buses and trams are another. You can always walk in this ancient town.
Here we are.
Or you can take a ride on Molly, the steam train. Well, Mieke, this is where we're going to board Molly.
Molly, yeah.
And Molly is a beautiful little steam train. So I think it will be nice. Nice, eh?
Yeah.
Here it comes, and listen to how quiet it is. Molly was commissioned and put into regular service in 1886. Okay, let's board, Mieke. Great. Now that is unique, eh? How do you like that?
This is something. Let's sit right here.
Okay. The train ride takes about 45 minutes and covers a distance of 15 kilometers. It is a wonderful way to travel back in time. Tour through the narrow streets of Bad Doberan. After leaving town, the train travels through the beautiful German countryside. The trip comes to an end at the White Residence in Heiligendamm. Now, how did you like that train ride, mate?
That was so interesting.
It's nice, huh? I think it's great.
Jake, I had a wonderful time.
So did I, but you know what? We're out of time. That's it for this edition of Travel Magazine 2000. We hope you've enjoyed our show as much as we have. I'm Jake de Boer.
And I'm Mieke de Boer, and join us again as we travel the world.
On to the steam train, Mieke.
Yeah, I'm on.